I have Kyle's WhatsApp. Maybe I can. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It's 6 a.m. on the 13th of January. We're coming to you. I'm from Central Florida. Dr. Kiltz is
There.
In upstate New York.
Dr. Kiltz, how are we? Hi,
Good
Dr.
morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Alia.
We are live.
All right.
Yeah. How are you guys today?
Excellent. Excellent. How are you?
Fantastic. Beautiful day in paradise.
Yes. You're in upstate New York, huh?
I'm in Syracuse today. Tomorrow I go down to Virginia, and then I don't know where from there. We'll see.
Please put in the chat where you're watching from, please. Hashtag KMT for...
I'm going to pre-order the winner a copy of the documentary for whoever is the winner of our giveaway today.
Beautiful.
We'll learn all about
Very
right
good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, today we are having Caroleen, and Kyle, and they're going to talk to us about Keto Is Key, a documentary coming out when?
It'll be coming out the first half of this year. We're shooting for March.
Awesome.
Okay.
Nice. So why is keto the key?
Before we continue, I don't know if you guys can see the vertical
Oh, yes.
on the left side. You are not showing at all. You need to come together more.
Yes,
a lot of people are watching on a vertical
It would be a
streaming.
little hard to do that with two people anyway. So
Yes, it is hard. But right now,
Let me see if we can do that.
Just an ear is showing.
but they can see the three of us and
All right. Well, I was going to start by sharing a little bit of my own story, so I maybe just tilt the camera towards me to start. How long do we have here?
And that
1 hour.
1 hour?
Yeah.
well, another 56 minutes.
Yeah.
And Dr. Kiltz was going to ask you a question. So Dr. Kiltz, go ahead.
why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your documentary and your why of life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my name's Kyle Kesses. I'm the producer of an upcoming documentary called Keto Is Key. And I'm going to tilt the screen over just to introduce Caroleen Moise. She's the director of the upcoming film. This is Caroleen's third documentary film.
Yes. Third documentary film, this time on keto and fasting. Because I'm myself an avid ketovore and also prolonged faster. All my films come from an experiment of one, so I decided to make my third film on this. And there are other reasons, of course, that we'll talk about later, but that's it for.
Yeah, we'll get into it as well. Thank you, Caroleen. Caroleen has been a really guiding light for me in terms of filmmaking. But I'll tell you a little bit about how I got into this because I think a lot of people listening may also be able to connect to this. So for me, back on February 6th of 2024, I was awakened in the morning by a video call from my mom, and she had been 16 hours in the emergency room waiting for an MRI. By the time she called me, they had actually gotten the MRI results back, and they had told her that there was a mass on her brain. And so my first thought was, all right, we can manage this. I had known other people who had certain masses on their brain that had been removed from surgical procedures. So I thought, okay, this isn't the worst thing, but the next thing she told me was that they thought that it had been glioblastoma, and I had never heard of this before, but I Googled it quickly while I was on the phone with her, and it's the worst. Glioblastoma is the deadliest cancer known to science, and so finding out that your mom has glioblastoma, and then finding out what glioblastoma is within the same short period was really devastating for me. So while I was on the phone, I packed up everything that I had in my apartment. I was living in Argentina at the time, in Buenos Aires. So I packed everything I had into just a couple of suitcases. And then I got the next flight back to New York City. My family's from up here in Connecticut. So I was headed back home. But so let's see, it was 3 days after that phone call that my mom went in for what's called a craniotomy. So it's a surgical procedure. You remove a portion of the brain, and the brain surgeon goes in an attempt to remove as much of the glioblastoma as they can. But the thing with glioblastoma is it's a primary brain tumor. So it starts in the brain and then it begins to expand into other regions of the brain, making it really difficult to surgically resect. So I think the surgery lasted about an hour, and they told us that she had that they had removed about 70% of the tumor. So we learned quickly after that glioblastoma, cancer patients who have glioblastoma, they have an average life expectancy of about 8 to 15 months. So you think about how quickly this happens. You get diagnosed with cancer, then suddenly you realize you have 8 to 15 months to live if you undergo the standard of care, which is the surgical resection, the chemotherapy, and radiation. So my mom decided pretty soon after that she didn't want to be radiated. So my sisters, my dad, and myself, and a few other family members, we started to look into some developing research out there about cancer. And if you type in glioblastoma and developing research, you'll find the work of Dr. Thomas Seyfried from Boston College. Dr. Seyfried's lab team has been working on glioblastoma for over a decade now. And I think one of the important things to understand about Dr. Seyfried's work, and this of course ties into the film, is that he's proposing a completely different way to look at cancer. If you go to oncology departments and hospitals around the world that treat cancer, they're operating based on the premise that cancer is a genetic disease. In other words, it comes from mutations that start in the nucleus of the cell. But Dr. Seyfried is furthering the work of a German scientist who won a Nobel Prize back like 100 years ago. His name's Otto Warburg. And Otto Warburg's work is really important because he examined cancer cells under a microscope, and he noticed that even in the presence of oxygen, the cancer cells are fermenting glucose. Now, this is important because if you look at a healthy cell and you look at the way that it reproduces, how it takes in what sort of fuel does it take in, what does it use to reproduce? It's a long and complex explanation, the answer to that question, but to try and simplify it, it's that cancer cells take in oxygen into a part of the cell called the mitochondria, and they convert that oxygen into energy, and that's how they reproduce. That's how cells die off, and that's how cells create new cells before dying off. But if you look at a cancer cell and you look at how does a cancer cell reproduce, it's a completely different mechanism. Okay, the cancer cell's mitochondria is dysfunctional. It's damaged from things that we'll talk about later in this conversation, like exposure to heavy metals in the air, overconsumption of carbohydrates, poor sleep, stress. So the mitochondria becomes dysfunctional, and instead the cell is searching for a way to reproduce, and so it relies on the consumption of glucose outside of the mitochondria in order to reproduce. And this phenomenon that Otto Warburg noticed 100 years ago, that cancer cells were fermenting glucose in the presence of oxygen, has become known as the Warburg effect. And it's pretty well known throughout oncology, even though to this day our oncological practices aren't based on this theory. But Dr. Seyfried at Boston College has done this research over the last several decades. He's been up there running his cancer lab for 40 years, and he's conducted experiments to verify the Warburg effect, to say that yes, cancer cells do ferment glucose in the presence of oxygen, and that is a major difference in the way that they generate energy compared to healthy cells. But he's also noticed that cancer cells ferment glutamine as well. So now we have this breakthrough understanding that cancer cells, they are able to take in two sources of fuel, just two types of fuel. The first is glucose, which the carnivore communities, the keto communities are well aware of. And the second is glutamine, an amino acid that gets fermented inside the mitochondria and inside the cytoplasm. So I'm learning all of this as I'm watching his YouTube videos, as I'm reading his research papers, and as my mom is attempting to recover from the surgical resection, which took place on February 9th, just to locate you in time here, going almost 2 years ago. And what we learned is that Dr. Seyfried has put in place what's called the press pulse protocol. He's published about this, that cancer patients can reduce their glucose and attempt to block glutamine with a glutamine uptake inhibitor. And this way you can, based on my previous explanation, you can start to essentially starve or cut off cancer cells access to their fuel. And so we tried to put this in motion with my mom. We tried to, the first few things we did, we ordered a food scale. We started weighing everything that she would eat. We started to map out her meals in a very systematic manner. My sister came from data management. And so she would create these spreadsheets, how many grams of carbohydrates, how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat per meal. And we were trying to get her into ketosis with a ketogenic ratio of 2 to 1. I'm sure Dr. Kiltz, your audience is really well familiar with the ketogenic ratio. You know, you have 2 grams of fat in comparison to 1 gram of carb plus protein. So if you're consuming 20 grams of fat, then you want to consume, let's say 6 grams of protein and 4 grams of carbohydrates. 20 grams of fat, 6 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbohydrates. That gives you a 2 to 1 ratio, right? You've doubled protein plus carbs equals half of fat grams. And this will likely get people into a state of ketosis. If you practice this for, some people it takes 2 days, some people it takes 6 days, some people it takes up to a week or more. But if you practice this 2 to 1 ketogenic ratio, you're likely to get yourself into a state of ketosis. You can know this by pricking your finger with a keto mojo. There are a lot of different devices you can use. Prick your finger, test your glucose, test your ketones, and you're looking for a ratio between the two of something under 2. Even Dr. Seyfried's research at BC and other research as well at Semmelweis University out in Europe, they look for a GKI, they call it glucose ketone index of less than 1 for cancer patients. And again, this is an attempt to bring down the glucose and restrict the cancer cells' access to glucose. And then the glutamine inhibition comes through a different mechanism. So we're working on this. We're taking my mom into hyperbaric oxygen chamber as well. This is part of the protocol in an attempt to get more oxygen into the cells. We can touch on that later if we'd like. But my mom's cancer was just too powerful. The cancer was located in the thalamus of the brain. If you look up, if you go to YouTube and you type in a video on the anatomy of the brain and you watch a 3-minute video, you'll learn about how important the thalamus is. It's in charge of so many of the major relay signals that take place in the brain for sensory input and many motor functions as well. So a lot of these like primal human functions pass through the thalamus at some point, and that's where my mom's brain tumor was located. So not only is it glioblastoma, the most significant, strongest cancer that we know of, but it's also located in this really primal area of the brain, in this case for my mom. And so my mom passed away after just 7 weeks of diagnosis. So,
Oh, wow.
you think about this, you think about how significant this cancer is, and that it takes people in 8 to 15 months on average with therapy. And my mom was gone after just 7 weeks. So we didn't really have time in the end to implement these practices, ketogenesis and glutamine inhibition. So I took a couple of weeks off after that. I traveled around. I have 2 sisters, as I mentioned, who went through this with me. We went to Glacier National Park out in Montana. We kayaked, and then we hiked in Canada as well, in Vancouver Island. But I came back to Connecticut after that in the summer. So now we're in the summer of 24, and I was still thinking about Dr. Seyfried's research. I was still thinking about other cancer patients who had gone through this, because there had been high profile in the cancer community cases of patients who had practiced glutamine and glucose reduction and were using it to manage their cancer. Pablo Kelly, you can check out Pablo Kelly online. He lived for 10 years with glioblastoma and all he did was lower his glucose. I mean, think about that for a second. You have Pablo Kelly, who was diagnosed with a glioblastoma in, I think, 2014. All he did was lower his glucose. He didn't do glutamine inhibition. He didn't do hyperbaric oxygen. He didn't do mebendazole, which are other components of the press pulse protocol. He just lowered his glucose, and he actually did have periodic surgical resections to keep the glioblastoma at bay. But essentially, by lowering his glucose, by staying in ketosis, he lived for 10 years with a disease that should kill most people, 95+% of patients within 8 to 15 months. So there are other cases like this as well of patients who've done this. And so that, combined with just the sheer like logical strength of Dr. Seyfried's work and of other work in this, for me in my head now, this community is growing. People who believe in therapeutic ketosis, Dr. Dom D'Agostino, Dr. Baz, Dr. Seyfried, a lot of whom are in our film coming up. So I got back from the West Coast and I emailed Dr. Seyfried and told him all of this. And he said, why don't you come up to take my class at Boston College in the fall of 2024? So we're going back like 15 months now. So I go up there to BC, I take his course. And as I'm sitting there with, other graduate students, undergraduate students who are aspiring to become doctors and researchers, I'm listening to Dr. Seyfried and I'm thinking like, my gosh, I'm in the presence of this like incredibly deeply knowledgeable professor on the history of biochemistry, on the history of evolutionary biology. And he's making the links every day, every class, between evolutionary biology, where, how the human organism evolved, to cancer. He's making these links very clear and with such like personality and charisma. So I went up to him after one of the classes and I told him, Dr. Seyfried, I come from a production background. I worked making documentaries for the New York Yankees for a few years. We won an Emmy Award in my last year there. So I told him, like, we should, let me bring my camera, let me bring my equipment into your lab and we'll do some interviews with you. You can start to get this information out onto the internet. He'd already been a guest on podcasts. I'm sure a lot of the listeners this morning have heard him on podcasts, but I started to interview him and we launched his YouTube channel and we got like 45,000 subscribers in the first year. And that's been a great, I think, move forward for his work up at Boston College. But about 6 months later, let's say, a filmmaker came in to his lab and she was working on a documentary, her third documentary film, and it was set to feature Dr. Seyfried and others, as I mentioned, Dr. Seyfried, Dr. Sean O'Mara, Dr. Rashni Sangani, who's practicing out in India, and it was Caroleen, who's seated next to me this morning. So I wish we had a camera lens wide enough for both of us here. But Caroleen came in, and she was working on a film that was primarily centered on visceral fat. It was her concept was to look at the fat that builds up around the organs, around the liver, around the heart, and this is really significant. Dr. Sean O'Mara is a leader in this field, but this is becoming well known. You have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, for instance, where a fat builds up around the liver and it leads to many downstream chronic illnesses. And so Caroleen was working on this film already. She and I met that morning, almost a year ago, in Boston College. We soon after became a couple, and then we started to work on this film together. And so it started to take a bit of a different direction. The more and more interviews that we conducted going forward, the more we started to realize that everybody every doctor, every researcher that we were focused on, they were in some manner, to answer your original question, Dr. Kiltz, they were in some manner advocating for the use of the ketogenic state in order to prevent and reverse chronic illnesses. So that became the title of the film, because whether it was Rashni Sangani in India, who's an American-born doctor practicing in Mumbai, because there is this epidemic of diabetes in Mumbai, in her home country where her parents are from. So she's decided to go out there and help she's decided to help people with diabetes treat their diabetes using low carb diet. And a lot of these folks out in India are vegetarians. And you guys know very well how difficult that can be to remain in ketosis while eating a vegetable based diet, but she's doing it out in India. Of course, Dr. Seyfried, I extrapolated on his work, how low carb is important to his protocol to reduce cancer cells viability. Then you have Dr. Seyfried you have Dr. O'Mara, who's prescribing sometimes 3 days of fasting to his patients in order to reduce visceral fat. So we started to see this. Dr. Pradeep Jamnadas down in Florida, he's a cardiologist, using fasting and ketogenic diets to reduce the buildup of fat around the heart and to actually improve coronary heart artery disease as well. So that became the basis of the film. And we realized, like, it's ketosis. While there are many other metabolic pathways that are activated when you go into ketosis or when you fast, the generation of ketones in the liver by the liver was really one of the key metabolic processes that we noticed. And I'll just finish up this long intro here by just giving my interpretation of what ketosis is, because we hear it a lot. We see it on magazine covers and it comes up on our YouTube feeds, keto this, keto that. But to me, I think the real important, the most, to distill it the best I can, is that once you stop consuming carbohydrates, I know a lot of people listening will know this, but a lot of people listening won't know this, so I'll share it. When you stop consuming carbohydrates, whether that be through fasting, whether that be through the carnivore diet, whether that be through a 2-to-1 ketogenic ratio of consumption, again, 2 grams of fat over 1 gram of a combined protein and carbohydrates, your body starts to deplete the sugar that's stored in the body, in the muscles and in the liver primarily. So as you're walking around, as you're exercising, as you're going through your day, you're using the stored glycogen in the muscles and in the liver. Now, once that glycogen is depleted and there's, let's say, no more glycogen in the body, there's no more glucose remaining, the body begins to look for another form of fuel. It says, okay, we have no access to glucose. We're not taking in carbohydrates. We've used all the stored glucose. Let's go to the fat stores around the organs. Let's go to the fat stores, subcutaneous fat stores around the body, in the stomach, the legs, wherever. And let's, send that fat to the liver, and the liver converts the fat into ketones. And the ketones get sent to the heart, and they get sent to the brain and other vital parts of the body. And the brain in particular loves running on ketones. The heart uses the ketones, and the ketones are more energy efficient. It takes you fewer ketones in order to generate the same energy that glucose is able to help you generate as a fuel. So this is keto, right? You lower the carbohydrate intake, you expend all of the glucose that's stored in the body. Once that process happens, could take 36 hours for somebody, could take 48, could take 6 days, 2 weeks for some people who are really metabolically unhealthy. But once that glycogen and glucose stores are gone, now you start to use the fat in your body. And that fat, when it gets used, gets converted to ketones. And this is what allows the brain and the heart to run really. And this leads to innumerable therapeutic effects that I'm sure have been. I know Dr. Ben Bickman was on Dr. Kiltz's podcast just a few months ago. I listened to that. It was a terrific episode. And I mean, he's a great. I mean, he's terrific to a commentator and a scientist on this whole thing. So, I mean, that's a long intro, but you told me we had an hour, so I felt like we could get into it.
It's really been great, you guys.
By the way, for those listening, if you want to hear a lecture by Dr. Seyfried, look in our channel. He was with us in Boston when we were last June.
Yeah.
And he had an excellent talk in our Boston meetup last year. Go ahead, Dr. Kiltz.
That's Jim Slotnick, who wrote a book called A Short Life. He died of glioblastoma long ago. He was in UCLA Medical School. First year, he's diagnosed with glioblastoma. He's dead in 2 years. He wrote this book. The day before he died, he finished this. It's called A Short Life. It's on Amazon. And I keep pictures of the people who inspire me every day. Craig Humphrey died of esophageal cancer. Dave Kilmer died of lymphoma. Healthy people, by the way. And you're right. There's a story here that through the people who have come before us and suffered, we're inspired to heal our brothers and sisters, and that really is important. And there's a simple story here. Plants are poisonous, and fat is masterful. Nobody eats fat. Nobody eats fat. And my theory is visceral fat doesn't cause any disease. It's a sign, and neither does liver fat cause disease. It's the plants and the protein that damage the cells of the organs, but fat gets blamed. Even today in the carnivore world, fat doesn't cause it. It shows up because physiologically and biologically, we're built to get fat. And so I just, just a little shift in a little bit of how we look at it. But you're right, Otto Warburg, who Hitler did not kill.
That's right.
Because Hitler was afraid of cancer. And Otto Warburg was the only dude that he could trust. So he'll try to keep him alive. It's pretty interesting. But your mom is all of our inspiration, right? Our brothers and sisters that have suffered and inspired us to share a story that you guys are working with. And Caroleen, you want to
and it was I want to mention as well, Caroline's mom right now has dementia, and so that's another way that she's in the throes of this battle. So
yeah, everyone, and this is our world. Right. We've been brainwashed to believe that fat and adipose tissue is still the cause of disease, and it's not.
That's right, and unfortunately, a lot of folks out there are sick, including my mother. So basically, as I mentioned before, I was always interested in health and the ways to cure the body with natural remedies, including food, first and foremost with food. And so after discovering paleo, I felt amazing, made a film about it. But short story is, or the short version of this very long story is that I also started to slip down that slippery slope with paleo, meaning I felt great in the beginning, but as you know, paleo folks would know this, we love our baked goods. And so slowly but surely, I didn't even realize how many carbs I was consuming per day. I continued to eat my protein and plant source, but I was also incorporating a lot of way too many nuts, way too many things that we weren't designed to eat in massive quantities. And after a short while, I started feeling all these symptoms come back again, and the bloating, the discomfort, the IBS, everything kind of like slowly creeped back in. And that's when I had to really stop and think, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing to, like, I'm eating paleo, what's wrong? And, discovered keto and also prolonged fasting. And once I started that, for me, it was the revelation. I was like, paleo was great, but this is really where I needed to go and focus and probably stay. It's like keto or very low carb. And that's what's been working for me really well. In the midst of that, my mom, started developing dementia. So now on top of all this, I have this very, pardon the pun, visceral reason to really make this permanent shift in my life, but also for my mother, because we're trying to, I don't live with her, but we're trying with my brothers and my father, we're trying to put her on a ketogenic diet and limit her carbs as much as possible. And this diet for now is mostly animal based, of course, and a lot of contains a lot of healthy fat and protein. We're hoping that along with other elements, as part of our intervention, we're hoping that it will slow down, at least at the very least, slow down the progression of this horrible disease, which is in her case already quite advanced, unfortunately.
A Guide to Fertile Life and Beyond, Dr. Kiltz's health building book.
It's sort of we all transitioned. I was, standard diets, and then found Atkins and Weight Watchers, and then found paleo. My patients taught me paleo, and then I found keto, and then we cleared all the yik yak and found carnivore. And that's the importance. And your storytelling to help us all sort of step from one to the other, but the stories are really the critical part to all of this, and because that's why your mom, Jim Slotnick, and Dave Kilmer, and Craig Humphrey, and my sister Marianne, who died of diabetes at 52, had it from stage 4. It's such a complicated story, but what if it were really so simple? Occam's razor. And as you're sharing these stories, someone's going to sort of connect with each of those stories you're telling, and ultimately the Bibles of the world are more powerful than Scientific America. And getting back to our ancient roots, which is really truly an animal-based diet, fatty meat, and plants and protein maybe are more poisonous than we realize.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just my mom. It's not just Caroline's mom, as you mentioned. I mean, at this point, you go into any room in the United States, and anywhere for that matter, but we're here in the United States, so we'll focus there for a second. Everybody's mom, everybody's cousin, everybody's neighbor has dementia, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. I mean, those 4 we know well from a lot of the many of the loudest voices in this space. Those diseases are claiming, like in some cases 80, 85, 90% of they're the 90% of the reason that people today die is because of dementia, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. And we're working on it. We're working on getting the word out. And I think I see all of us as doing that, whether it's you, Dr. Kiltz, whether it's Dr. Seyfried, whether it's our attempt here to make stories, documentaries about this. We're trying to let people know that, it comes down to a very simple fact that what we consume is leading to our health or to our lack of health. And we're making progress. I know we are. You can see it in the government. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it when you talk. I mean, I was in the gym the other day, and I met this older gentleman, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, like this guy, he asks me what I do for work. I'm telling him about the documentary, and this guy lives in rural Connecticut, and next thing I know, he's wearing a CGM on his arm. And I'm thinking to myself, we've gotten to a point now where a guy like in his 70s and 80s, living in rural Connecticut, is wearing a continuous glucose monitor to measure his glucose throughout the day. So we are making progress, and I think stories like the one that you're mentioning, stories like the one that we're producing, it's huge. And we've got I see a couple of notes in the chat that I wanted to address, but can I add something to the chat as well? Let's see. Oh yeah, I just have to.
Please. Yeah. We're all. This is a conversation with all of us, and how important it is. And
somebody in the chat asked, what is a glutamine inhibitor? And of course, you can go to Dr. Seyfried's information to learn about this, but I can explain quickly. It's just that glutamine is one of the 2 fuels that gets processed in cancer cells. Cancer cells can only remain viable. They can only live when they have access to glucose and glutamine. Glucose, we're well aware of how we can reduce it. Glutamine is they call it a non-essential amino acid because you don't need to have it in your diet in order for your body to have access to it. Whatever macronutrients and micronutrients you supply to the body will take those and make glutamine with them. So it's synthesized internally. And so the glutamine can only be inhibited through a small molecule, a drug. You put the glutamine inhibitor in, and it inhibits the uptake of glutamine. It inhibits the enzymes that allow the body to uptake glutamine and send it to the organs. So this can only be done for short periods of time during the protocol, but that's what it is. It's a drug that inhibits the uptake of glutamine to the organs and prevents cancer cells from having access.
We do have a bunch of questions accumulating.
Sure.
Well, the best drug, the best anti-cancer drug, is actually eating full fat.
There you go.
and fasting, and butter or lard, or actually raw fat before it's been rendered, and that's the problem. But everyone's afraid of fat,
Right.
and simplicity, right? Go ahead, Dr. Nelson.
Let's
Dr.
take some
Nelson.
questions. We have a bunch of them.
All right, Jet Afterburner podcast. Dr. Kiltz, what are your thoughts on fenbendazole and ivermectin?
Fenbendazole.
What's as a TX option paired with carnivore? What's TX?
Treatment.
I don't know why you'd take those things unless you had some medical issue going on. I mean, I don't think these are supplements or things you should take every day.
Well, they are medications associated with some benefits in cancer. And what do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, fenbendazole. Fenbendazole is going to be studied at Dr. Seyfried's lab right now. One that you can look at that he has a lot of published research on is called M-bendazole. M-bendazole is it's like a parasite medication, and this can help prevent the tumor's access to this can help you treat the tumor as well. But yeah, fenbendazole I know is being studied in the cancer field. Ivermectin is as well.
They're almost identical for bendazole and mebendazole.
Yeah.
So many people are going to Sophia Clemens, and I interviewed her a few years ago, and her treatment is really raw fat and fasting, and quite amazing how many people have significant benefits. Dr. Seyfried is amazing. He works in a standard world. That's part of his challenge, meaning that he must integrate both keto dietary protocols and the modern medical protocols. And so there are those that believe, like Sophia Clemens, that really you can help and heal many of these people by simply using raw fatty meat and fasting. Just to kind of throw that part of it that I know people have mentioned, Sophia, we should get her on again. And I think, that's really a good one, but that's the one part that Dr. Seyfried's kind of handcuffed with. But I do believe that the keto state, which is actually our natural ancient state anyway, because we didn't eat 3 to 4 times a day. We might have eaten 3 to 4 times a week or a month. And we ate fatty raw meat, which maybe in that short amount of time, we really need to force that. But next question, Dr. Nelson.
I think this was a comment that has been addressed.
Sure. Yep. Thomas Seyfried, he was speaking with us last year at Boston, and there's 2 or 3 videos with him on the channel talking about cancer research. Here, you want to ask your own question, Dr. Nelson?
I had put this because didn't want to interrupt Kyle at the beginning. Did filming this change your perspective on the standard of care in modern oncology?
Oh, yes, 100%. I mean, before my mom was diagnosed 2 years ago, I was like most people in society. I thought, okay, if you get cancer, you go to, we live here near Yale University, renowned university. Okay, you go down to Yale. It's called Yale New Haven Hospital here in New Haven, and you go see the best doctors in the world. You go see these people who have studied this and who understand this. But once my mom was diagnosed, and once I discovered a lot of the different scientists here in this community, namely Dr. Seyfried, I learned about how a cancer cell actually functions and what are the things that it relies on in order to remain viable and to reproduce. And then I learned that what's being done in oncology departments is not based on the newest and most accurate science of how cancer cells work and how they function. And so that led me to where I am today and to meeting Caroleen and to working on this movie. So yes, it totally changed my perspective on the standard of care. Standard of care radiates people and gives them poisonous chemical therapies. And this has all types of they call them off-target effects. Dr. Seyfried sometimes says, if you give a patient chemotherapy, they go bald sometimes. So why are we attacking the hair follicles of a person when the tumor is in their is in their pancreas or is in their brain? But yes, it totally did change my perspective.
And
And I'll
Did
just
the
say
film
as well-
address the film address the boogeyman, the cholesterol issue?
Yeah, I'll let Caroleen talk about that, because Caroleen, her first documentary is called Love Paleo, back in 2016, Caroleen. And back in 2016, going back a decade, Caroleen already had in her documentary, was already touching on this, which has now become a major topic here 10 years later.
So one of the ideas with this third film was to really, of course, tell a story, be cinematic in the telling of that story, but also try to educate people even more on, what to look out for. So there will be in the film a section where we address the cholesterol issue, and we talk about statins and why, like we're being prescribed these drugs left, right, and center, because unfortunately, unlike you, Dr. Nelson and Dr. Kiltz, the medical community, the mainstream medical community still doesn't seem to understand that, these numbers are to be interpreted in synergy, not just one isolated figure. And here's a pill for you, here's a drug. And oh my gosh, your LDL is way too high. Not understanding that depending on what the person eats, that will, obviously affect their the levels, the cholesterol levels and whatnot. So that's part of my mission with this film, is to really make sure that people understand for themselves how to interpret to a certain degree, and bring this to their doctors, and not be just like a passenger sitting there with like my doctor telling me everything I need to know about my body, and me not understanding or vaguely understanding these concepts.
One thing I can add to that, just, the best I can do is just tell you what these doctors have told us. And Dr. Pradeep Jamnadas down in Florida, I mean, he, as I mentioned him before, he advocates for fasting, advocates for a ketogenic state. He helped us understand that, to answer the question more directly, does address the cholesterol issue. A lot of people look at LDL cholesterol as a leading marker for heart disease. Dr. Pradeep Jamnadas helps us understand this just a little bit more granularly, quite a bit more granularly, when he says that the first thing you want to look at beyond that is, in those cholesterol particles, are they large and fluffy particles, or are they small and dense particles within that LDL distinction? So that's something that, modern blood tests will help you understand. So you can look at that. Are the particles that are small and dense are the ones that are sometimes more detrimental to the heart arteries. The ones that are larger and fluffier you could have a high cholesterol level, but if you don't have small, dense, then perhaps it's a bit healthier, a bit more forward, clear road ahead.
And they do this through also analyzing actual patient blood reports, literally going through them on screen and explaining what's happening and how you would treat quote unquote someone with those results or values.
We have as well. I can't get into the chat here. I think maybe I didn't log into the interface, but I just want to say, maybe Alia, if you don't mind sharing, we have the trailer of the film available for the first time today. So if you're listening, if you're at home,
yes,
you want to take a look at the trailer.
Nobody. Can we get it on? Can we show right now?
yes.
Yeah, if you want, that'd be great. Sometimes when you stream things, it can lag a little bit, but hopefully it comes.
And the link for it is in the description of the video wherever you're watching from.
Oh, great.
Can we share screens and put it up as a?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now.
Let's try.
Did I put the pre-order into the chat? Let's see. Does it show?
It's on the homepage, Aaliyah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, good.
It's on the homepage of the Keto Is Key movie.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Got it.
Yeah.
Let me.
It's the first. It hasn't been.
Let's take another question while Alia looks for that.
Yes, Dr. Nelson, please.
Okay. Let me see. I think there was something here regarding your mom about
dementia and the
Here
diet. I can answer that. Yes. So I would say that Yes, I feel like when you introduce something that is so left field to mainstream, there are always challenges, right? What, we're not going to eat bread anymore? What, we're not going, and my parents are from Haiti. I was born and raised in Canada. I lived in Australia for 20 years. As a matter of fact, I just left this chapter of my life last August. But essentially, raised in the Haitian culture. And what do we eat, Haitians? Any Haitians are listening right now. We eat a lot of rice. It's akin to, I think, Latin Americans as well, but
And
mainly
probably a lot of roots.
Yes.
a lot of roots, Dr. Nelson. That's right.
I'm
And
from
all
Puerto
these,
Rico.
there you go. So right, the yuca, and we have the plantain and a lot of well, that's more like a grows on the tree, but we have a lot of roots as well, and yams and stuff. And so basically, just to kind of like transfer that knowledge and also make it stick with my family, and like get them to understand this is what we're doing now. We're going to eat, the majority of our calories are going to come from animals. And still, like baby boomers with this old conception of like, oh, but I can't eat that much fat. Isn't that going to be detrimental to, our arteries and our heart and all that? So yes, there are challenges, but I've been, luckily, my brothers and my father, they're very open-minded people. So after quite a bit of like showing them the science, explaining, and also, mind you, my father doesn't speak much English. I'm from Montreal, so you will notice French Canadian. So French is my mother tongue, and so my father speaks primarily French and Creole. So all this literature is in English. The technological challenges, excuse me, of I can do it. Anyone who is a bit tech savvy goes online. Oh, it's in Hungarian. Let me translate that in English. Not so easy when you have limited knowledge of tech. So, but we're getting there. We're getting there, thankfully. There's been also, we've been able to boost her nutrition with supplements. And I think seeing a slowdown of the progression of the disease has been very encouraging. When people see results, they're encouraged to continue with what they're doing.
Okay, I got it. Let's see.
Great. So here's the trailer. That
No, Alia, sorry.
Yeah.
That's good that you brought that up, because that's not where you're supposed to go. Sorry. Reminds me that, yes, it reminds me that we also need to change the link there. If you go to ketoiskeymovie.com and you just click on
ketoiskeymovie.com. Let's see what pops up. And if it changes.
There you go.
Yay, okay.
And then just below is the
watch the trailer. Okay, let's do
just below. Just if you just
button, under that
scroll
button,
down,
you'll see the trailer.
that's a safer bet. Let's click on that
okay,
one.
Let's
Yes.
do that. Okay.
Thank you.
See if this works. Yeah, you're welcome.
In a really sick cardiac patient, if you only have a cholesterol of 50, you're in big trouble.
Because that aorta opens up, you're dead in seconds. You don't live long if that thing ruptures.
He said, Lindsay, this is about as bad as you see. When you look on the inside, you're morbidly obese.
Fat is not supposed to be in some places of the body. Fat is supposed to be stored in fat storage.
Have we been describing this as radiologists? No.
Most doctors will look at, oh, this number's high, here's a pill for you.
Essentially, he has a death sentence.
What did our ancestors 500,000 years ago eat?
We have limited food availability, and it would be unnatural to not go in a state of ketosis.
Now we have foods that are just rich with fructose, damages mitochondria.
Know what you're actually putting in your body. Learn to count your macronutrients.
When they explained to me where I had gone wrong, that's when I realized why I was so sick.
You can reverse prediabetes and type 2 diabetes by putting somebody on a ketogenic diet.
Every patient deserves the best shot possible. That incorporates the best diet possible, which we think is a ketogenic diet.
Food is my medicine, but the right kind of food.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So this is a full-length feature documentary that we've been working on. Caroline's been working on this for about 2 years. I've been involved in the project for almost 1 year. So it'll be coming out first half of the year. As Alia shared there, you can go to ketoiskeymovie.com and you can pre-order it if you want to have the movie emailed to you or email you. We can email you when it comes out. You can go to ketoiskeymovie.com and pre-order it. But this is again, this is Caroline's third documentary. So we're right now in conversations because people often want to know, where can I go see it? You know, we're in conversations. The way it works in the filmmaking industry is you have all these streamers that we're all using now: Hulu, Netflix, all the big ones, Amazon Prime, and then there's usually a middleman called a distributor that you have to work with in order to get the movie onto these platforms. So right now we're in that process of negotiating with the distributor. And then to have them present it to these major streamers. We've already gotten a lot of interest from distributors who want to get it out to Netflix and Hulu and others.
Awesome.
But even if that, sorry, Dr. Kiltz, go ahead.
You've been working on this project and you've seen the suffering. Is there a basic, simple story that you can relay? And it's the bottom line of this movie and the whole reason we're all doing this.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if I had to try to distill it, there are a lot of different messages, but I think to distill it would be to understand what you're putting in your body. And I think previously it had been, you know, don't eat junk food and all of that. But now we're realizing that you can even get more specific than that. If you can reduce your carbohydrate consumption, and if you really want to get specific and measure it, 20 grams of carbohydrates per day or fewer, if you can reduce that, you can get your body into a really healthy state, and you can start to heal major issues that so many of our families are dealing with.
I think it's also about reminding people about how powerful food is over pharmaceuticals, which is our go-to in North America, and that wave has taken over the rest of the world as well, or is on its way. So we're trying to reverse that tide, right? And remind people, and educate people. For the ones who don't know it all, educate them on the power of food, and those who used to know and forgot, it's about reminding them how powerful what you put in your mouth is. How much
it's a challenge because of our cultural roots, which are mostly peasant roots.
Yeah,
peasants are fed plants. Peasants are fed plants. Keep them domesticated.
Yeah, and even in a lot of cases in history, reduced quality. You know, like let's just compact it into a biscuit or something even less vibrant, less alive. Just one more thing I want to touch on, because we haven't talked about this as much, is the fasting element. We talked about a bit of carnivore, a lot of ketosis, but fasting as well is an incredibly powerful tool in order to get our bodies into this state that we keep talking about. So Caroline has done a lot of prolonged fasting, and I think we'll start to hear more and more about this as we go forward in these next.
What's
few
the
years.
longest Caroline has done?
I'm still a novice, Dr. Nelson. 8.5 days.
Okay, well, that's good.
That's good.
But beyond that,
did 22. I did 15. I'm on day 2 of 7 days of fasting right now.
Nice.
Oh, excellent. How do you feel, Dr. Kiltz? Your day 2.
Awesome. I feel awesome. Always awesome, by the way. You lead with your thoughts first. Faith is always first. faith trumps everything, fatty meat and fasting. And it's amazing. We can do whatever we think we can do or can't do.
Yeah.
Dr. Kiltz, someone wants to know, long handle here, Jets Afterburners podcast. Can you clarify what raw fat is?
Well, it's the stuff we carry here and an animal carries here also. That's raw fat. No other animal cooks their food. And if you look at Pottinger's cats, you'll see that some of the damage was done because of cooked meat and pasteurized milk. And so ultimately we evolved as ancient hunters, and it's raw fatty meat. It actually kind of looks just like that. And it's actually the healthiest thing to eat. But that's hard to believe. Can't do that.
We need to do the giveaway.
We'll get that. You click it as we're talking.
Next
question.
I wanted, if I could say one more thing, I just want to say to a lot of the people listening, before as we go into the giveaway, Dr. Kiltz, if you haven't had a chance to talk to him, I know a lot of the listeners who come on the show, if you haven't had a chance to meet him, talk to him. He's one of those guys that if you wake him up at 3 a.m, I can guarantee you he's got the same personality, the same spunk, the same charisma that he does on camera. No matter when you meet him, we met him down in Florida, and we really appreciated you, and we just want to tell you that sometimes you see people online and they're putting on a persona. I think that's what I want to say. But Dr. Kiltz, he is who he is through and through, and that's super, super powerful.
Well, bless to you guys.
And you were so much fun, Dr. Kiltz. You were so much fun.
We had a great time down there. I loved it. And it was so good. And again, the sharing the stories, because nowadays so much of our information is strictly through the stories that you're creating and the documentaries, and that's such an important thing to keep exploring and expanding. I mean, my sense is that a cancer cell is actually not the problem. It's the environment. It's simply trying to thrive and survive in an environment that we've created that is deadly for it. And it's probably has more value than we understand. It's a reason we're alive, but the environment is saying to them, they're bad, and it's a marker of a bad environment, I would say. Again, you mentioned, the what we breathe, drink, and eat. It's not just what we eat; it's all those things that come into this, and along with what we think.
Yeah, I remember talking to you down in Florida. You focused at one point, I remembered quite vividly, on the power of the gut, and I think that's. You correct me. I think it was like you were telling me that the microbes, like we have a lot of microbes in the gut, but we wouldn't want those microbes in other parts of the body. We wouldn't want them in our bones or in other parts of the body. And so it's important to understand the distinction between the environment in which the food is processed and the other sub-environments in the body.
Yeah.
Are you referring, Dr. Kiltz, to what Pasteur? I'm sorry, Aliyah. I was just saying, are you referring to what Pasteur said on his deathbed? He admitted that terrain was everything.
Essentially, we got to look at the soil is alive with infinite microbes and macrobes and things like that. Mm-hmm. And when it's damaged, the organ systems and the organisms flourish or die in an unnatural way. And so death is natural to all of us, all organisms, but there's a war and a fight here that science is trying. It's scientism, I call it. It's claiming it knows, but in fact, none of us were meant to live in Haiti on rice or bread and wheat around the world, or potatoes around the world. We're just eating an unnatural plant-based, and we've forgotten our ancient nature, which is fatty raw meat.
That's right. Dr. Kiltz, I got to hit the end live.
Well, you're going to hit the end live. We'll see everyone. See everyone tomorrow.